Hello guys, welcome back to another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received on Facebook. The message reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? Can you please post for me as hidden identity? I am a 34-year-old driver and I work at a funeral parlor. My own father worked at a funeral parlor as well as my own mother. She used to clean those dead bodies in the mortuary. Most of my cousin brothers, they also work at different funeral parlors. There is this story that I want to share with you that happened to me when I started working at this certain funeral parlor. This story that happened to me, Brother Nashi, it was quite strange. From the onset, when I was told that I was supposed to accompany this family as I was carrying their dead relative back to their village from the capital city of Zimbabwe. A lot of strange things were being done by those family members. They told me that I should not worry. They started doing all of these rituals the moment that we were driving out of the funeral parlor, and they told me that I was not supposed to be afraid because they wanted their relative to avenge his own death. They told me that their relative had been stabbed to death when he was driving from work. There were some robbers who had tried to hijack his car. And when he tried to fight with those robbers, that is when he was stabbed. He later died in the hospital. But before he died, he called his close relatives and he asked them to perform this ritual when he had died because he wanted to avenge his own death. When that man died in the hospital, he was then brought to our mortuary, and I used to hear rumors that he woke up in the middle of the night and he would start talking whilst he was in the mortuary. I never believed those rumors, and according to the instruction that he had given his relatives, he was supposed to be left in that mortuary for about 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, that is when he was supposed to be buried. And he had asked his relatives not to be buried in Harare. He wanted to be buried back in his village. So his relatives waited for 2 weeks and they paid a lot of money. For you to keep your dead relative in the mortuary for about 2 weeks, it is going to cost you a lot of money. His relatives sacrificed to pay a lot of money for keeping him at that mortuary. Personally, I thought that this was false rumors until the day that I had to drive the body from the mortuary to its burial place. What amazed me is that his relatives, they were actually celebrating as if he had not died. They were actually treating him as if he was still alive. The place where I was supposed to drive with this body, it was a very long distance. And to drive from Harare to Mtoko, it is quite a long distance, and I was driving alone. The car that I was driving, it was in the middle of the convoy. There was a bus in front, then there was a bus that was behind. The pickup truck that was driving in front, it was the one that was doing a lot of rituals. So what they would do is that we would drive maybe for about an hour. Then we would stop by the side of the road. Then the people that were in that pickup, they would get out of the car. Then they would come to the car which I was driving. They would ask me to open up the car. They even opened up the coffin so that they can speak with their dead relative. All along, they were telling their dead relative not to be lost along the way. They would tell him that he had to follow the car that was in the front. But as we were driving along the way, I then started to notice that there was a strange sound that was coming out of the car that I was driving. And whenever we would stop, they would actually buy some takeaways. Then they would bring those takeaways to me and they would ask me if I could place those takeaways in that coffin. This was really strange to me because as far as I knew, this person was dead. Why were they treating him as if he was still alive? I thanked God when we finally arrived at the place where he was supposed to be buried. But before we could enter the village, that is when I heard a sound. This sound, it seemed as if it was coming from the back of the car where the coffin was. I immediately stopped the car. Then I got out of the car. When I stopped the car, the pickup that was leading the convoy, the bus, and the 2 buses, they all stopped. Everyone got out, and everyone claimed that they had heard a voice that was coming from the coffin. Even up until today, I don't know if I truly heard the voice or if I was just hallucinating. But in that moment, Brother Nashi, I think that I heard a voice that came from the back of the car where the coffin was. So the elderly people that were there, they came, then they approached the coffin and they listened. And one of the people that was there, she said that the instructions that he gave to his relative, Brother Nashi, was as follows. He wanted his relative to prepare soft porridge and meat for him, but he said that he wanted uncooked meat, and after they had prepared the soft porridge for him, they were supposed to place it on top of his coffin, and they were supposed to place a cigarette on top of his coffin after they have finished placing his coffin in the grave. And this is what they did. This was quite strange to me, for a man to be buried with a plate of soft porridge and uncooked meat, and he asked his uncles to place a weapon in his coffin. They went and they bought a knife and they placed that knife in his coffin. After they had placed that knife in his coffin, that woman who seemed to be possessed, that is when she said, "It is done. You can now bury me, because from now on I'll be able to avenge my own death." This was shocking, Brother Nashi. All these things that I saw, Brother Nashi, it was really shocking to me, and it was really scary because I had to drive through the night from Muntoko coming back to Harare. I was really scared, Brother Nashi, with all the things that I had seen. I even tried to pick up some people who were at the hiking spot, but no one wanted to get into the car because it was a funeral car. All of them, they were scared. So I had to drive from Muntoko coming to Harare. I never stopped, Brother Nashi. All that I wanted was to return back to Harare as quickly as possible. But along the way, I never came across any strange thing. But this thing that happened to me, brother, even up until today, it still amazes me. I don't know if this man was able to rise up from the dead. I don't know if he was able to avenge his own death. But this is the situation that I came across, Brother Nashi, as I was assisting this family that did all of these strange rituals. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received via Facebook. Then I had to ask one of our translators to give us a translation, hoping that this story was not lost in translation. I'll be back with another episode.